Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I really wanted to sit down and talk about my favorite foundations. These are my holy grail, my tried and tested. Foundation is definitely one of my favorite categories when it comes to makeup products because it's such a personal thing. It's what covers like the majority of your face, and if foundation is done right, it can look so beautiful and just make you feel so much more confident about your skin. And for someone like me who's suffered with their skin and having like really acne prone skin, when I find a foundation that really sits beautifully and just doesn't make my skin look overly cakey but still covers imperfections, I am so happy. And I have tried a lot of different foundations over the years, and I would say my foundation collection is pretty big, but I went through all of my foundations and I just picked the ones that I would highly recommend and the ones that I like intuitively go back to over and over again. And just to tell you guys my skin type, so I have a pretty like true combination type of skin. So the outer perimeters of my face tends to be a bit more dry, but then I do have a bit more of an oily T-zone, so right here between my brows, a little bit around my nose, and a little bit on my chin. I'm super excited to be doing this video for you guys, and let's just dive right in. So I want to start with the foundation that I have on today, and this is one that I reach for over and over again, and that's when you really know that you love a product, is when you like intuitively just seek out for it, you want to wear it. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury Light Wonder Foundation. It comes in this very convenient squeezy tube packaging, which I just love. So you open it up like this. It makes it really easy to travel with, and just for application purposes, for sanitary purposes, it's just very convenient. This foundation retails for $46. You get 40 mils of product. For me, this is one of the best everyday, lightweight, natural looking foundations. This has a very skin-like finish. It's not a completely matte foundation, but it's not an overly dewy foundation. It just gives your skin a very healthy glow, but not greasy, not oily. It just looks like your skin but better. It's a very lightweight formula, which I love. So you don't feel like you're wearing a lot of foundation. It doesn't feel heavy. I believe on the website it says it has like a sheer coverage, but I think this is a pretty good medium coverage foundation. You could definitely sheer it out or, you know, build up the coverage, but for me, this is a good like true medium, so it's a perfect everyday foundation. And I like that it's just a very quick and easy foundation to apply. So you just shake up the bottle, just take it directly onto my face. So I do a little swipe on each cheek, a little bit on my forehead, and then blend it out with either a dampened beauty blender or a foundation brush. This is one of my favorites, by the way. It's from Hourglass. This brush is just so soft and so luxurious feeling on the skin. It's hands down my favorite foundation brush when it comes to like liquid foundations. And even though it is more on like the healthy kind of glowy side, I would say it's still fine for I would say it's still fine for an oilier skin type to use this foundation, as long as you have a good primer on underneath. One that I've really been loving is from NARS. This is the Pore and Shine Control Primer from NARS. I like to just apply this in the areas where I get a bit more shiny. So right here around my nose, a little bit between my brows. And it does last a pretty long time as well. I can go pretty much the whole day wearing this foundation and it doesn't break apart. Again, I just love that it comes in this squeezy bottle. It just makes it really easy to travel with, and I just love the very healthy, glowy, natural finish that it gives to your skin. Moving on to the next foundation, this is one that I love. Like, I love all of these foundations, but this one, it has my heart. It's just such a reliable foundation. It makes your skin look like literally perfect. It just wears for hours and hours, whether it's raining, it's humid, there's a storm, like this foundation will not budge. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. I believe this is one of the most purchased foundations ever, so it does seem to work really well for a lot of different people. This foundation retails for $42. You get 30 mils of product. This foundation is definitely more full coverage than the Charlotte Tilbury Light Wonder, but this is the type of foundation that I wear when I want my skin to look super flawless, super perfect, especially if I'm having some breakouts or if I'm not feeling the best about my skin. I will wear a more full coverage foundation like this to just really even everything out, and it really does make your skin look so flawless and very airbrushed. And what I love about this foundation as well is that it comes in such an array of different shades. I believe there's 42 different shades of this foundation, all with cool, neutral, and warm undertones. And I think that that's really important when it comes to finding a good full coverage foundation. You want to make sure that the shade really matches you. Otherwise, I think you can just tell right away. I personally always go for warm undertones because I have that warmth in my skin. I think there's really a shade for everyone, from the very, very light to the more darker skin tones. And I think that's really nice when a company really caters for all different types of skin tones. The wear time of this is crazy good. It says it has a 24-hour wear time. I've personally never worn foundation for 24 hours, and I don't recommend wearing foundation for that long, but it does wear for a really, really long time. But with that said, it is a bit difficult to take off. So you really have to make sure to double cleanse when you wear this foundation to really get everything off of your skin at the end of the night. But it's so amazing if you are going on vacation, or if you live in a humid or hot climate and you're worried about your makeup like melting off or getting too oily. Another reason I love this product is because I think it's very versatile. So it is a more full coverage matte foundation, but you can always mix it in with your moisturizer, or you can mix it in with another more sheer foundation that has a bit more of a dewy finish. You can really customize this foundation, and I think it's a great base. I would say though, if you are going to use this foundation, make sure that you have really prepped your skin beforehand. So make sure that it's really cleansed, exfoliated, and properly moisturized, because this can look dry. Maybe wear a hydrating primer underneath to really make sure that this just melts into the skin. So if you haven't tried the Estee Lauder Double Wear yet, definitely give it a try. Go get a sample. It works well for so many different people, and it's definitely one of my holy grail foundations. My next foundation is actually a lighter version of the Double Wear, and this is called the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light Foundation. I love that it's in a bottle, so it's really easy to travel with, and apart from that, it literally is like a lighter version of the Estee Lauder Double Wear, and it has a little bit more of a matte but radiant finish. So it's not as matte as the original one, and it doesn't have as much coverage as the original one. I would say this is really well suited for more drier to combination skin types. It really has the longevity and staying power of the Double Wear, just in a lighter formula. This is another one of my favorite like everyday foundations. It looks really natural on the skin, and I love the finish of it. The only downside of this is that it only comes in 5 different shades, but I believe that's also because the coverage is not as intense as the original Double Wear, and it's perfect for someone who loves the original Double Wear but just wants a lighter formula for everyday use. So moving on to another favorite. This is one that I reach for if I'm going to special events, or if I am going to be photographed with flash photography. This foundation looks really pretty on the skin, but it also translates really well onto camera. So this is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. I would say this foundation has a good like natural medium coverage on the skin, but you can build it up, and it just leaves the most beautiful satin finish on the skin. I think it looks very beautiful, very skin-like. I know this is a foundation that a lot of makeup artists use on celebrities for red carpet events. I feel like it has these very small kind of light reflecting particles in the foundation. It also doesn't have an SPF in it, which is again something that I think adds to its very like photogenic abilities. As some of you might know, when you have an SPF in a foundation, it can sometimes cause it to flash back in photography, making you have a bit of a white cast, and this does not do that at all. I also really love that it comes with a pump. It makes it very easy to again apply. It keeps the product sanitary, and the glass bottle is also very pretty. It looks very luxurious, and it also feels really good on the skin. It's very lightweight. Again, the actual formula is quite liquidy, so it doesn't feel heavy on the skin, and I know that this is a foundation that a lot of people wear like on an everyday basis. To extend the wear time of this foundation, I really like to mix it in with the Estee Lauder Double Wear. I feel like this combination is like the best of both worlds because you get the beautiful coverage and longevity with the Estee Lauder, but then you get that very healthy, natural glow, skin-like finish with the Armani Luminous Silk. So we've talked about some of my favorites, more high-end luxury foundations. I have two great ones from the drugstore that are more affordable but work really, really well. I think this is one of the best, more full coverage foundations at the drugstore. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. This foundation retails for $12.99. You get 30 mils of product and it comes in 22 shades. This foundation is a full coverage. It says Pro Matte, but it has more of like a demi matte finish. So it's not too matte where it's like it sucks the life out of your face. It still has a nice kind of natural but more matte finish. But I would say this is a pretty close dupe to the Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation in the terms of the texture of the foundation, how it wears. It's super long wearing, by the way. Again, it says 24-hour wear, but I've never tested it for 24 hours, but it is very long wearing. As with the Estee Lauder Double Wear, I would make sure to really prep the skin beforehand to make sure that it's cleansed and exfoliated and definitely moisturized. You can really work this into the skin properly and just really blend and mesh it into the skin. Otherwise, it could look a little bit dry. So keep that in mind. And again, I love that it comes in this squeezy bottle. It's perfect for traveling. It's just very straightforward and easy. It doesn't get messy or anything like that, which I love. I would say the only downside to this foundation is the shade range. It does come in 22 shades, but it's not a very broad spectrum. And I think for someone like me with a more yellow, like deeper undertone, it is a bit difficult to find like my exact shade. So I do have to mix two colors to get like my perfect shade. But if you do find a shade that works well for you, that's great. If not, I have another foundation from the drugstore that comes in a larger variety of colors with different undertones, and this is another one of my favorites. Like, I love this foundation. I think it performs like a high-end. This is the Maybelline Matte and Poreless foundation, and this retails for $7.99. You get 30 mils of product as well. For $7.99, I think this foundation performs just as well as some of my foundations that go for $50. So the formula of this is really incredible. Plus, it comes in a whopping 40 shades. It's a very broad range, so you have a good amount of lighter tones, a good amount of medium tones, and a good amount of darker tones. Plus, they come in cool, neutral, and warm undertones, which is amazing for me personally because, as I mentioned, I have quite a warm undertone to my skin, and a lot of foundations can look ashy on my skin tone if they don't have that warmth underneath. So I personally really love that about this foundation. This foundation goes on really smooth. It has a nice medium coverage, but you can definitely build it up in certain areas. And even though it says matte and poreless, I wouldn't say it's like a fully suck the life out of your face matte. Like, it still has a little bit of life. It has like a demi matte finish, I would say. And it doesn't feel heavy or cakey on the skin, especially if you apply it with a beauty blender and really like work it into the skin. Again, make sure that your skin is prepped, that it's moisturized, exfoliated, etc., so that you can really work this foundation into the skin. It does also stay put on the skin for a very long time. Again, just make sure that you really set it in place with a setting powder. This was the foundation that kind of got me interested in trying foundations again from the drugstore. I had only been using high-end for a pretty long time. I tried this and I fell in love. I would say it's one of the best foundations at the drugstore. It just makes your skin look super smooth, flawless, fills in your pores, it covers redness and evens out the skin tone, but doesn't look heavy or cakey. And I think the price point of this is just amazing as well. If you're on a budget but you want a really great foundation, definitely check this one out. I would also love to hear from you guys if you have used this foundation or any of the other foundations that I mentioned. Let me know how they work for you and your skin type, because I can obviously just tell you my experience with these foundations on my skin. Maybe you can share your thoughts and opinions on these foundations foundations below, or if you have any recommendations, so we can all kind of help each other out in the comments. So I've mentioned all of my favorite liquid foundations, but I want to talk about one powder foundation that I really love. This is something that I've actually had in my makeup collection since pretty much like the beginning of my makeup journey. This is the MAC Studio Fix Powder Foundation. It looks like this. I have this in a couple of shades. This is NC42 and I also have it in NC40, which looks like this. I think this is a very versatile powder foundation and I use this in several different ways. One of the ways I use this is if I'm just running out the door or if I'm having like a really easy day and I just want a little bit of coverage on my skin, but I don't want to go in with a full-on liquid foundation. I'll just apply a little bit of concealer underneath my eyes, maybe a little bit around my nose, and then I will take a large fluffy brush and just kind of buff this all over my skin just to give it a little bit of coverage. And I love that you don't have to apply too much to get a decent amount of coverage since it's quite highly pigmented on its own. And then I'll just apply a little bit of setting spray or like a facial mist to just kind of bring the powderiness down, and it looks beautiful. It wears really well. The second way that I like to use this is when I'm wearing a normal liquid foundation. I've done my makeup, but maybe I have a spot or an imperfection that's kind of peeking through and has a bit more of like extra color to it. I'll of course apply a little bit of extra concealer to that area, but then I will set it with a powder like this. Again, because it is a bit more full coverage, it's really going to just cancel out the color of that imperfection and just really blend it into the skin. So I just pick up a little bit of the product and I will like pinpoint it exactly where I need it, and it works amazing. Those are all of my favorite go-to foundations. I really hope that you guys enjoyed and maybe found this helpful. I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to know what your favorite foundations are and if you've had any experiences with the ones that I mentioned. I will also make sure to leave links for all of these foundations below in the description box, along with the different shades that I own in those foundations. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this type of favorites video and if you would like to see more like on different categories. So maybe my favorite concealers or lip products or blushes or bronzers. So let me know below and we can do that as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed, and as always you can find me on my Instagram. It's at AnnieJaffrey. I'll also make sure to have a link for that down below. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye guys.